Lewis Hamilton put on a Ferrari race suit, drove onto a soaking wet track in Maranello, and posted a lap time that made every single expert, every legend, every TV analyst in Formula One drop their jaw and go completely silent.
Crazy that it's coming to an end. And for him also, he's been with the Mercedes family since, what is the number? 30 years almost. I mean, it's really close to 30, close to 30 years. So how was it? He certainly has one of, or maybe the greatest natural talent the sport has ever seen. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. And there's so many occasions where we have the same car, we go out, we come in, and you look at the data, what he's done with that car. And it's just like, that's not even human. Like, what is that? Like, what is that? And I was a decent driver as well, you know? So I'm just, so many occasions where it's like, this is like insane. So unbelievable talent.
1 minute, 1 second, 0.31, 1 minute, 1.031. And when Nico Rosberg, the only man in a decade who could match Hamilton wheel to wheel, heard that number, he said it straight, no hesitation. That is enough to beat Mercedes. That is enough to win the 2026 World Championship.
Will Lewis Hamilton win a race this year?
It's not going to be easy, but I think he will. Their chassis is very good. They're just lacking in power. Hopefully they'll figure out ways, and maybe with the FIA having this chat with all the teams, something might change that may allow them. But a little bit of luck could come into play. We know Hamilton has got a huge amount of talent. And
welcome back, Lewis. The grid just got a whole lot more nervous. Here is what actually happened, and why it matters more than people are giving it credit for. April 2026. Formula One has no race this month. The calendar is quiet. Most drivers are at home in the simulator, resting. Not Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari and tyre manufacturer Pirelli arranged a 2-day wet weather compound test at Fiorano, the Scuderia's own private circuit right outside the factory in Maranello, Italy. The mission was straightforward on paper. Run Pirelli's 2027 wet tyre development compounds. Collect data. Full wets in the morning, intermediates in the afternoon. Ferrari's irrigation system kept the track artificially soaking wet throughout the entire day. Even as the Italian air climbed to 21 degrees Celsius, Hamilton was in the car for every single lap. Day 1, 142 laps, 423 kilometers, on a wet circuit, testing tyres, back and forth, configuration after configuration, giving Pirelli exactly the data they needed. But here is the part nobody was ready for. In the middle of all that technical work, in the middle of what was supposed to be a routine data-gathering exercise, Hamilton went and set a fastest lap of 1 minute 1.031 on a wet track, in a car he has barely had time to learn, at 41 years old. That number went around the Formula One world in minutes. And the reactions, they were something else entirely. Let me tell you about the shockwave this sent through the paddock. F1 experts who cover this sport every single week, people who watch data for a living, were openly stunned, not quietly impressed, openly stunned. TV analysts who had spent months questioning whether Hamilton could truly compete at the very front in 2026 suddenly had a very different conversation on their hands. Because 1.031 on a wet track is not a number you post by accident. That is not someone going through the motions. That is not a driver easing himself in gently. That is Lewis Hamilton doing what Lewis Hamilton has always done, finding the absolute limit and then living right on the edge of it. And then came the voice that made everything louder. Nico Rosberg, 2016 Formula One World Champion. The man who spent years racing Hamilton so hard that he retired the very next day after finally beating him, because he knew he could not sustain that level of battle. Rosberg knows Hamilton better than almost any human being alive. He has sat across the garage from him. He has raced him centimeters apart at 300 kilometers per hour. He knows exactly what Hamilton looks like when he is serious. And Rosberg looked at that 1 minute 1.031 and said, publicly, clearly, without hesitation, it is enough to go up against Mercedes. It is enough to win the 2026 World Championship. When that man says those words, you do not argue. But to understand why this moment carries so much weight, you have to step back and look at the full picture of who Lewis Hamilton actually is. Because this is not just a fast lap time from a good driver. This is a fast lap time from the greatest racing driver who has ever lived. 7 world championships, the record, the one that stood with Michael Schumacher, the man the sport said was untouchable. Hamilton did not just reach that number, he claimed it, he owns it. 103 race victories, the highest total in Formula One history by a distance that still feels impossible to fully comprehend. 104 pole positions. 104 times Lewis Hamilton was the fastest human being on Earth over a single lap. But forget the numbers for a second, because what truly defines Hamilton as the greatest is something the numbers cannot fully capture. It is adaptability. Hamilton has been dominant across 5 completely different generations of Formula One cars. Different engines, different aerodynamic philosophies, different tyre compounds, different rule sets, different teammates trying to beat him in the same machinery, and every single time, he adapts, he learns, he finds the front. His wet weather driving is in a category of its own, a skill so rare and so lethal that rival engineers have studied it for years trying to understand how he does it. His tyre management is the stuff of legend, capable of nursing rubber for 40 laps and then producing qualifying pace on the final stint when it matters most.
Years, the car generation is actually a little bit more fun to drive. It's oversteery and snappy and sliding, but it's a little bit easier to catch, and yeah, I would definitely say more enjoyable. But we definitely have work to do to improve, of course, like everybody does. But I think we've had great debriefs. Everyone's really on it. I really feel like I really feel the winning mentality like in every single person in the team more than ever, so it's a positive.
They said he was done. They said 41 was too old. They said the greatest driver of his generation had nothing left to give. And for one painful, humbling year at Ferrari in 2025, some of them almost had a point. Almost.
So Lewis, when we spoke earlier in the week, you said you wanted some running in the dry. You got that today. It looked like a pretty productive morning out there. How do you sum it up from your side?
It's nice to get out in the dry and do some running, because obviously our first day was in the miserable wet weather. And yeah, it was good to get out and kind of see. Obviously, I drove in Ferrari just 1 lap or 2 laps, I think we did, just to kind of feel the car. So it was great to be able to get some running and understand the tyres.
But here we are in 2026. A new season, new regulations, new cars, and a Lewis Hamilton who has walked back onto the grid looking like a man with something enormous to prove. Not to his critics, but to himself.
Lewis is going really well. He's driving, he likes these cars. So it's we're seeing the old Lewis, and we're seeing him smiling instead of tormenting himself, which is so much easier to watch and enjoy. So and Lewis is in a really good place. Ferrari are going well. If you like Formula One, you need Ferrari to go well. We all do. I was a British Formula One driver, and I'm a Brit, so I'm always happy to see Lewis and the other Brits going well too.
And now, Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old sensation who has taken the F1 world by storm, is sending warnings to his own Mercedes team about what a fired-up Lewis Hamilton can do. Martin Brundle is telling George Russell to treat his teammate like a peak Lewis Hamilton, and the entire paddock is watching Ferrari very, very carefully. Before we talk about what's happening right now, let's remind everybody exactly who Lewis Hamilton is. Because when people say greatest driver of all time, that's not hype. That is a cold, documented, statistical fact. 7 world championships, more than any driver in history. 103 race victories, again, the most ever. 104 pole positions, the most ever. He has broken virtually every meaningful record this sport has. And he did it across 3 completely different eras of Formula One. He won his first title in 2008 at McLaren, on the very last corner of the very last lap of the season, in the rain, passing Timo Glock to snatch the championship by a single point. That moment alone tells you everything you need to know about Lewis Hamilton's DNA. Then came the Mercedes dynasty. 6 more titles between 2014 and 2020. Championships won with a driving style unlike anyone else. Smooth, precise, and almost telepathic connection with his car. His ability to manage tyres, manage race pace, manage pressure, unmatched. He is the only driver to score points in every single season he has competed in Formula One. He is the all-time leader in wins, poles, podiums, and laps led. When people debate the GOAT, Senna, Schumacher, Alonso, Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton's name always comes first. Always. Which is why 2025 hurts so much. Hamilton made the most talked about move in Formula One history when he left Mercedes to join Ferrari. A match made in heaven, the greatest driver alive, the most iconic team in the sport's history. The whole world expected fireworks. Instead, 2025 was a nightmare, not a single podium. He finished 6th in the championship, a staggering 267 points behind eventual world champion Lando Norris. Ferrari's car wasn't competitive enough, development stalled, and Hamilton, by his own admission, lost himself in the process. He said it himself, he forgot who he was. That is a devastating thing to admit. But here's the thing about Lewis Hamilton. He has always been at his absolute best when his back is against the wall. And now, Ferrari have completely reinvented themselves under the new 2026 regulations. They've been, in Brundle's own words, quite innovative over the winter. And when Lewis got into the new car at pre-season testing, something clicked, something came back. Martin Brundle, one of the most respected voices in the sport, said Hamilton looks happier. And as Brundle said it perfectly, a happy Lewis has always been a fast Lewis. That one sentence should terrify every team on the grid. Now let's talk about the warning that shook the paddock. Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, already leading the 2026 Drivers' Championship after winning in China and Japan, has reportedly been warning his Mercedes team to watch Hamilton closely, because he can see what's coming. Think about that. The hottest young driver in Formula One right now is watching Ferrari and watching Hamilton, and sounding the alarm. That tells you something about the threat level Hamilton represents in 2026. And then there's Martin Brundle. Speaking about George Russell and his battle with Antonelli at Mercedes, Brundle said, "He's got to treat Kimi Antonelli just as if he's Lewis Hamilton in his peak and a threat for the championship." Let that land. In 2026, the benchmark for raw, unstoppable talent, the gold standard comparison, is still peak Lewis Hamilton, not Verstappen, not Senna, not Schumacher. Lewis Hamilton in his peak, in 2026, when Hamilton himself is still on the grid. Hamilton currently sits 4th in the early championship standings. He was on the podium in China in just the second race of the year. Ferrari are looking fast. And Lewis is smiling again. So here's the question everybody is asking. Can Lewis Hamilton actually win an 8th world championship? The one that would make him truly, undeniably, untouchably the greatest Formula One driver who ever lived? The ingredients are there. Ferrari are genuinely competitive for the first time in years. The new 2026 regulations have reset the grid, and Hamilton knows exactly how to exploit a new regulation car. He's done it before. He's the best in history at adapting. He has Charles Leclerc pushing him to be sharp every single weekend. He has a team at Maranello that is united, motivated, and desperate to end their title drought stretching back to 2008. And he has something more powerful than any of that. He has a point to prove. Listen to his own words. He said, "I came back into this season and started off strong, to be able to show that I still have what it takes to compete at the front. That's not the language of someone winding down. That is the language of a champion who is hunting. 2026 is not the end of Lewis Hamilton's story. It might just be the greatest chapter he has ever written. The 8-time world champion. No driver in history would have done what he would have done. And every single person in that paddock knows it is possible. That is going to do it for today's video. If you believe Lewis Hamilton is about to shock the world in 2026, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you don't miss a single update from the most exciting season in years. I'll see you in the next one. Let's go, Lewis.
What about news? Kimi Antonelli may have revealed a crucial piece of information as to whether we are going to get a multi-way team title fight this season. That all comes down to whether Ferrari can bring the engine upgrade they are hoping for and whether the FIA grants them that additional development opportunity. Antonelli says yes, Ferrari will get it, and it won't be long until Ferrari could be right back in the mix for race wins this year, hoping for a new engine to turn around their season, but that does not mean there isn't room for optimism elsewhere. Rumours emerging that their current power unit is not producing the power that could be possible with what they currently have in the SF-26. Software updates will follow before the Miami Grand Prix as they aim to unlock more performance in a similar way to McLaren did at the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. Upgrades, though, physically.
Kimi Antonelli just told the entire Mercedes garage something that nobody expected to hear: treat George Russell like peak Lewis Hamilton. And then, almost on cue, Lewis Hamilton himself stepped out of the shadows and dropped a bombshell. Ferrari have a master plan, and the whole F1 grid is in shock.
Differentials really lie in 2026. Reports have it Ferrari could be 30 horsepower down on where Mercedes currently are, and that is good and bad for the rest of the season. Clearly, they have arguably, if not certainly, the best chassis on the grid right now, and if they can bring engine upgrades, there is no doubt the Ferrari should be right in the mix for the championship this season. But given potential rule changes, that could hurt them badly until they get the upgraded engine in play, and it's not 100% clear yet when that...
Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, buckle up, because today we are going deep on the most dramatic storyline of the 2026 season. A teenage prodigy warning his own team about a 7-time world champion. And that same champion, now in red, quietly building something at Maranello that could change the entire championship. Let's start with the moment that lit the fuse. After winning back-to-back Grands Prix in China and Japan, Kimi Antonelli, a 19-year-old in just his second F1 season, has done the unthinkable. He leads the Drivers' Championship. He's now the youngest driver in Formula One history to hold that position, breaking a record that belonged to one Lewis Hamilton from 2007 by nearly 3 years. And yet, when Antonelli was asked about the pressure of going head-to-head with his teammate George Russell, his answer wasn't about Russell at all.
So he couldn't spray on race day, he couldn't spray the champagne. I don't know if you know that story, but they had to have on hold a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne. So basically they had flavoured water, pumpkin juice, whatever, available, but they couldn't promote the brand either. He's not allowed to spray Moët Chandon champagne, basically, or drink it, because it's disrespectful to do that in front of millions and millions of people on television and know basically that you're doing something that's against the law, basically, isn't it? So, and the funny thing was they had the bottle ready there. So obviously in China it's okay, and I got the picture of him signing the bottle and then posing with me. Obviously in Japan, it was waiting there, and I couldn't understand why he didn't go over. But that's the reason why he didn't go over and sign the bottle, is the fact he's not allowed to. He's not allowed to touch it.
Martin Brundle said it best on Sky Sports. It's difficult times for George, and he's got to treat Kimi Antonelli just as if he's Lewis Hamilton in his peak and a threat for the championship.
Kimi takes on possible rivalry with George Russell.
Are you worried at all that it could become a bit tense between the two of you?
No, I'm not worrying about that, to be fair. I'm just going to focus on myself, on what I need to do, trying to get everything right in terms of procedure, starts, driving. I know how strong George is, and for sure it's gonna be very hard. Keep raising the bar, and but I'm not focusing or worrying about this at the moment. I'm just obviously happy with how things went today, and just gonna try to make the best out of the break and trying to see where, how I can improve those areas in order to be back stronger.
People that have been looking at him and protecting him, that's another factor now. We need to protect him from people talking about world championships.